GeniusInsomniac, Bruce, the coolest nerd you know. Today I'd like to talk about the possibility of zombies. I know a lot of people don't think that zombies are possible. I asked a question on social media the other day if people actually believed if we'd ever run across a time where people will be turned into zombies. And even though it seems like science fiction, the answer is really not that simple. And no, when I say zombies, I don't mean like the heroin addicts that run around your city looking brain dead. I'm talking about like Walking Dead, World War Z type zombies. That's what I'm talking about. Looking into it, find some interesting things, especially in the animal kingdom. Many people have not ever heard of Cordyceps unilaterus. There's an actual fungus that zombifies some carpenter ants. Blow your mind. See, what it does is this fungus gets on the ant. Once it gets on the ant, it gets into his body, goes into his brain. Scary part. Gets into the brain, makes him convulse. They fall out of the trees onto the ground, and at solar noon, a certain time, the ant is compelled to climb back up roughly to find a leaf about 10 inches. It's almost always the same. Finds a leaf about 10 inches off the ground, bites on the underside of the leaf. From there, the fungus eats away the muscles inside the ant's jaw so he can't let go of the leaf. And from then on, it kills the ant. And then over time, a stalk of fungus grows out of the ant's head and spreads spores around to infect other ants. Now, I know all of that sounds crazy, but let's think about that for a sec. So this fungus actually takes control of the ant to actually compel the ant to crawl up about 10 inches and go to the underside of a leaf is a very specific thought, and not unlike a zombie infection saying that you should go bite and eat other people. Essentially, the ant is out of control at this point, and he does whatever the fungus tells it to do in order to replicate more of the fungus. There's a wasp that stings a spider and injects a larva inside this orb weaving spider. Okay, so it sounds like what wasps do. After it does that, the spider will make a web that it's never done before, and it makes a special cocoon just for the larva to be able to live in. Zombie behavior. There's also a special worm that lives inside of crickets. It takes over their central nervous system, makes them jump towards light, make note of that, makes them jump towards light in hopes that they'll find a body of water to fall into. Once they jump into a body of water, it makes the cricket drown itself. After the cricket drowns, the worm comes out because it wants to live in the water. These are things that happen in the animal kingdom. There's countless other parasites that take over the brains of another creature in order to reproduce itself. And the closest thing that we have right now to, I say, a zombie virus would be something like rabies. People don't realize about rabies is that rabies attacks your brain matter and actually destroys it, finds its way into your saliva gland. And that's why when a dog or a person infected with rabies, their saliva can transmit the virus. And by that damaging the brain tissue, it damages areas where a person can hallucinate and they can become more aggressive. Eventually, if you're infected with rabies, you will be paralyzed and die. So that really wouldn't be an efficient zombie. Let's think about what we've seen in zombie movies just for a second. Usually in movies, the characteristic of zombies is that they're really aggressive, they're compelled to move towards light and sound, and they also want to attack other non-dead or non-infected creatures. Is that too far-fetched from what I just talked about? I mean, that worm likes to make the crickets move towards light. Rabies makes people aggressive. The fungus actually takes over the brain control and actually tells the ant exactly what it wants it to do. How unlikely is it that some type of parasite could take the best of some of the things I just said and turn into a super parasite? A zombie parasite. Okay, let's stop for a second. The other argument is if you have to die to become a zombie, you won't be able to move. So what? So there's nothing that can bring you back to life if you're already dead. But how many of you have seen a video of the squid, or actually it's a cuttlefish? It's sitting on a plate and they pour soy sauce on the squid, and the squid's tentacles start moving. It looks like this, and it's pretty disgusting. People do similar things with frog legs and actually frog torsos as well. But here's the crazy thing about this. Those animals are dead, but they're still moving on the plate. The reason why, they've been freshly killed. Their tissues and organs are still alive. And with the frog legs, when you pour salt on them, the salt allows for the electrical signals in the muscle cells to fire. They're really involuntary convulsions from still living tissue. And with the cuttlefish and the frog torso, the salt's having a lot of salt in it as well. It's really the salt that causes involuntary muscle reaction. What if our parasite attacks as soon as someone dies, similar to the people in The Walking Dead. We know in The Walking Dead, the virus or whatever it is already inside of everyone. So as soon as they die, it takes over. So that would be similar to the food on the dish. And if the actual virus or parasite has control of the central nervous system and the tissue is living, maybe it's sending its own signals from the brain to the rest of the body, possibly reanimate someone. Not so far-fetched after all. Granted, for what we know, this would be an advanced parasite. Who's to say all the gray matter we have up here can't be controlled by some small organism? Wait, and for fun, if you ever seen the movie World War Z, those zombies are totally different. Those zombies go like balls to the wall the entire time. It's something interesting most people don't know is that our muscles are a lot stronger than the force we exert, but we do have our own little protection system up here that keeps us from flexing and exerting it as hard as possible so we don't tear our bones or snap our own tendons or anything like that. Suspending our disbelief, if we had a parasite that took over our bodies without that restriction, you would possibly have World War Z type zombies. They run, they jump, and they try to spread that virus as fast as possible. So with all that being said, does that actually change your thought of maybe it being possible? Look, links to everything I've talked about are down in the description, so you can go and check them out yourself. I'm not really so sure that it's impossible. Could it be formed in a lab by some rogue government? Maybe, I don't know. The animal kingdom is doing a very good job by itself developing this sort of biotechnology. So after watching it, do you really think zombies are plausible? I won't say necessarily possible. Do you think they're plausible? Let me know in the comments or on Twitter. Let me know what you think. If you're watching this on Genius Insomniac, this video is also on Genius Insomniac 2. If you didn't know I had another channel. And if you're on Genius Insomniac 2, this video is actually on Genius Insomniac. I'm actually placing this video on both of my channels, just in case you didn't know I had 2 channels. Usually different kinds of content, but I thought this video would be a conversation starter, maybe slightly educating, or at least thought-provoking at the most. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I'm in Tweet Insomniac, Instagram, BZBets. If you like any or all of this video, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you assault and abuse that like button as well. But that's it. As always, I'm Bruce, coolest nerd you know. I'm on my way to get a zombie killing kit right now.